Okay guys, this is our last video on 4.3, and you have to be able to draw the carbon cycle. So I'm going to draw it for you, and you are going to draw it when you watch this video, and you are going to submit it after you watch this video. So we're going to go ahead and start off with carbon dioxide in our atmosphere and hydrosphere. And I'm lumping them together because basically anything that happens in the atmosphere also happens in the hydrosphere. Then we're going to look at carbon in dead organic matter. Then we're going to look at carbon in producers. Carbon in consumers. And carbon in fossil fuels. Okay, so what we're looking at are what we call sinks or pools of carbon, and you, yes, you are a consumer, and your little body is made up of a lot of carbon molecules, so you are considered a sink, a place that stores carbon. I'm going to go ahead and put a square around all of the sinks. Now we're going to see how this carbon moves between the various sinks, and it does this through certain processes. These processes are what we measure, and we call them fluxes. So we're able to measure the change of carbon going into and out of the atmosphere or into and out of the ground, from combustion to decomposition. So let's go ahead and have a look at this. Carbon in dead organic matter. Well, that carbon is being decomposed slowly by detritivores and saprotrophs, and it's happening through respiration, cellular respiration. We also have carbon producers that are undergoing, or we also have our producers, the carbon in producers, that are undergoing cellular respiration. So again, I'm drawing the processes or the fluxes in pink. Notice the arrows are pointing to the sink that is receiving the carbon. So you are drawing a line, for example, from consumers. So the carbon is leaving the consumers and going to the atmosphere or hydrosphere. And again, that process or that flux is going to be respiration. Now, consumers also eat producers, so the carbon is being transferred from the producer to the consumer by feeding. That is the process or the flux. Consumers also eat other consumers. So that process is called feeding. Now, consumers die and become dead organic matter. And that process is called feeding. In addition, consumers defecate. They have excrement that is broken down by our detritivores and our saprotrophs, and that process is called excretion. Then we also have the combustion or the burning of our producers. Clear-cutting forests would be an example of that. Then we have the carbon found in our fossil fuel can be combusted and burned for energy. Then we have the partial decomposition and decomposition of our producers and our consumers, can be both, turning into our fossil fuels. So that process is called fossilization. And partial decomposition. It's hard for me to write on this, sorry guys. Remember that partial decomposition, an example of that would be peat. Peat is partially decomposed. Now you also have carbon dioxide being pulled out of the atmosphere and the hydrosphere by photosynthesis. Okay, so these in green are our sinks or our reservoirs of carbon. So these are storage places for carbon. And the processes are in pink, are arrows. Remember, the arrow is always indicating what is receiving the carbon. So what sink is receiving the carbon. So the arrows give the direction that the carbon is going. And these processes are called fluxes. So it is the movement of carbon between the sinks, and we call those the fluxes in the carbon. The whole thing is called the carbon cycle. You will have to be able to draw this out. So right now, what I want you to do is take out a sheet of paper, pause this video, draw this cycle out, and upload it to Schoology for me. This is the carbon cycle, and I hope that was helpful.